Hi, my name is Megan and welcome to the kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some granola bars. Now, there are a ton of recipes for homemade granola bars out there. What am I adding to this menagerie of granola bars? Well, a lot of the granola bars are baked, and I don't know when you're watching this, but it's summertime and I like to avoid turning off my oven. And a lot of granola bars were using nut or seed butters as a binder to hold their granola bars together. And I personally am not a fan of nut or seed butters. I love eating nuts, I love eating seeds, but because I don't like putting that kind of stuff on bread, I never have it in my house, and I wanted to make granola bars. So this is what I came up with to work around those parameters. So there are a few basic ingredients you're gonna need. The first thing you're gonna need are some regular rolled oats. I would recommend regular over quick because the quick oats tend to get a little bit gummy and the thick are just too thick. So I would go with regular or old-fashioned oats. An optional ingredient is some puffed rice. I like adding some puffed rice because it adds some textural variety. If you just do the oats, it's really good, but it's all kind of the same, and adding the puffed rice just makes it slightly lighter, a little different. We'll talk about that a little later. You will need some chia seeds. The chia seeds are acting as half of our binder here to keep everything together. I don't know if you've heard of chia eggs. You could also use flax in place of the chia. Today we're going with that. You also need a fat of some sort. Today I'm using grapeseed oil because it pours easily out of the container. Usually when I make this at home, I like to use coconut oil, but any kind of oil or fat will do. You will also need some sort of a sticky sweetener. So maple syrup or honey or brown rice syrup would all be good options for that. After that, it's up to you to choose what kind of granola bars you want to make. Today, I'm going to be using some strawberries and walnuts and some chocolate chips because strawberry walnut chocolate chip, can you go wrong? But you could also do like a pina colada one with some dried pineapple and some coconut, or you could go with a slightly less sweet one and do something like a mango chili. There's a ton of options here. The choice is yours. So we've gone over all our ingredients. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do when we are making these granola bars is get our chia seed ready because that takes the most amount of time. So I am going to take a tablespoon of chia and I'm going to add that into my little cute bowl here. It's my tablespoon of chia. And then I'm going to add just under a half cup of water, somewhere between a third and a half cup, somewhere in there. So I'm going to do not quite all of this. And then the thing I've noticed with chia is that when you just pour it in, it kind of starts forming clumps wherever that is. And so at some point, I need to remember to stir this so it's kind of equally absorbed. If we had more time, water would do its water thing and it wouldn't be a problem, but we're trying to keep things quick here. So I've got my chia going. The next thing I want to do is start melting and warming up the rest of my binder. So it's not really the rest of my binder. It's the rest of my dry ingredients. I'm going to use a cup like this and put all of my ingredients in here at one time because it really doesn't need to be super specific. And if I put my oil in here first and then add in my sticky sweet, the sticky sweet isn't as sticky and will come out of my container a little bit more easily. So I'm going to start with about a third of a cup of oil. Third cup, so I say a third cup? Next, a third cup. We're using a quarter cup, so this is too much. I've been working with a bunch of different, so about halfway to the halfway point is what we're doing. We'll use that for something else later today. I want a quarter cup of my oil of choice. Move that off to the side. And then I have a nice little pool that my sweet can go into. And let's see, we are doing today strawberry and walnuts. And with strawberries and walnuts, I think that I would like to use maple syrup. So that's what I'm going to go with. I experimented with making some savory granola bars. I'm going to do about a quarter cup of this as well, so I end up at a half cup. I was experimenting with making some savory granola bars, and somebody recommended that I use brown rice syrup for that because it's not quite as sweet and it is very sticky, and it was really good. So I came up with some savory options that I will share with you later. I'm just dumping this total of a half cup of liquid into a pot. I want my pot to be big enough to be able to hold all of my oats. You could definitely do this in a small saucepan and then use a separate bowl to mix your oats and stuff in. I don't like doing more dishes than I have to, so if my pot is big enough to hold my oats, I can just use my pot. So the point of this is just to melt it and to kind of incorporate it all together. So as that is warming up and melting, I can prep the rest of my ingredients. I'm gonna come over here to my little chia bit and mix that up. It likes to clump up and kind of get selfish and not allow the other chia seeds to have fun in the water. So we're gonna... Okay, so I kind of put this in my way a little bit. So I'm gonna move that out of my way and we're gonna talk about the rest of the ingredients that go in here. If you are just going to use oats, you can use about 3 cups of oats. I like to add puffed rice because A, it's adding another grain in, and B, it makes it not quite so dense. So if I'm using the puffed rice, I'll use 2 cups of oats and 2 cups of puffed rice. And if I'm not using the puffed rice, I'll just use 3 cups of oats. So total of 4 cups versus just 3 cups. But work with that, see what you like best. That's also where I found I liked it for the mixture of my sweetener and oil. With that, you can add about 2 cups of whatever toppings you want to kind of hold everything together. If you get too many toppings in there, then there isn't going to be enough binder to hold things together. But if you have about 2 cups, you're going to be good. So I am going to start with my strawberries. These are dried strawberries, and they don't look super attractive, but they taste really good. They smell a little bit different than what I initially expected it to. It's not bad by any means, it's just different. But don't let the smell fool you, because when you eat them, it tastes like you're eating a little bite of strawberry jam. So if you're somebody who likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, put peanut butter in your sticky mixture and add some chopped peanuts, and you've got a peanut butter and jelly granola bar. And if that's your thing, you get to make it exactly the way you want it. I am dicing these pretty small. I prefer to have more small bites rather than fewer big bites, but that's, again, a preference thing. Come on, little strawberries. You could also mix all of this in at one time. I like to mix things as I go, and I have justified that by saying that when I put my fruit in the hot stuff, the oil is coating the strawberries and kind of helping those pieces stay apart rather than all clumping together. But B, in my head, the flavor from the strawberries goes into the oil sweet mixture, and I get a little bit more flavor cohesiveness. I have not done a side-by-side test to see whether that's true or not, but it makes sense in my brain. And obviously, if it makes sense in my brain, that's reality, right? Not really. But it's not hurting anything to do it this way, so that's the way I'm doing it. Also, you might have noticed that I did not actually technically measure this. I hope that just speaks to the flexibility and variability that you can kind of try your own thing. I try to come up with a pretty solid base because I know there's some people that really like measurements. But if you're somebody that doesn't really like measurements and just likes to have a general idea of here's how to do this thing, I got you covered. Okay, I have finally gotten to my last strawberry. You guys get to get the shortened speed ahead version. I hope none of you are judging my knife skills too harshly, because I know they could definitely use some improvement, but we could all use improvement in something, right? If we're not improving and we're not growing, then we're stagnating, and if we're stagnating, we're dying. I think that's how that saying goes. So I'm gonna give this another stir. Stir, stir, stir. I have had so much fun experimenting with all of the different flavors as I've been trying to get this. The other day I made one that was slightly pizza inspired. It would have been more pizza inspired had I added yeast flakes to it like I meant to and forgot to do. But basically I used brown rice syrup for my sweetener in that one because brown rice syrup is very sticky but less sweet. And then I chopped up some sun-dried tomatoes really fine, and I added some oregano and some basil. and somebody said it was like a granola bar went into a Italian restaurant. I'll take that. It was definitely polarizing. Some people just couldn't quite wrap their head around the idea of a savory granola bar, and other people really loved it. So if savory's your thing, try savory granola bar. Next on my chopping board is I'm gonna use some walnuts. I'm gonna use about a half a cup of walnuts. It definitely looks like it's more than a half cup right now, but when you chop it, like right now, if I put this walnut next to this walnut, it takes up a lot of room. But if I break it up and it has little pieces, it takes up less room. You can chop these up as roughly or as finely as you like. This is another place to get some great variation in texture in your granola bar. So I like to have some big pieces and some little pieces. So we're gonna go with that. And we're gonna take this and very carefully try not to lose too much on our way over. We're going to stir this up. This is fully melted and it's looking wonderful. I'm going to check. I'm going to wait on adding the chocolate chips in for now because they will melt. It's not really a big deal if they melt a little bit because that kind of also helps hold everything together, which is why I can get away with adding more than my recommended 2 cups of things, is because of that. And you'll figure out which things kind of help act as binders and whatnot. If I put the chocolate in now, they would completely melt and they would just be spread out throughout the bar, which is really good. But I don't want that for this particular bar. For this bar, I would like for them to be a little bit more intact, so I'm going to add them actually after I add the oats. Checking on my chia egg here, it's looking pretty good. There's definitely a little bit more water that could be absorbed, but it's close enough. The oats will also absorb some of that. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. The reason I like to add the chia in now is to make sure it's fully mixed around, because I don't want to get a great big clump of chia somewhere. I love chia, but I want my granola bar to not have clumps of it. I want it to be dispersed throughout. Be right back while I grab a pot holder. Okay, I have my pot holder. I'm going to take this off the heat just so I can move it closer to me, which means I'm going to move this out of the way and off. Okay. I am using puffed rice today. So because I'm using puffed rice, I'm going to use 2 cups of oats. So in goes 1 cup, 2 cup, whatever falls in when I do this. So then and 2 cup and 2 cup. Okay, there's all the puffed rice and the, oh, while we're on the puffed rice, I want to show you what this puffed rice looks like real quick. If you look at it closely, you can see that the outside grains have kind of a like brown speckling on them. That is because each one of these is an individual grain of rice that has been puffed. Usually if you have like Rice Krispies or something, they will take the rice and they'll grind it down into a flour and then mix it with stuff and then cook it in a little rice looking something. But these are actually individual grains of puffed rice, which is fun. So there's that. We need a parchment lined something to put this in after it's been thoroughly mixed. You could use an 8x8 dish for sure. I found that I like my granola bars a little bit thinner than that, and I found a really cool workaround, so I'm going to show you that. So let me grab my baking dish. Okay, here is my 9x13 baking dish and my parchment paper. This is going to be entirely too big. I don't want my granola bars that big. That's okay. We're gonna... I said that's entirely too big, and then I made my parchment paper way too big. Whoopsie. Okay, with this parchment paper, you can see it's not going to lay flat in my little thingy. So what I'm going to do to make it lay flat in my little tin here is I'm going to set the parchment paper under, and then I am not talented enough to use scissors backwards, so I'm going to do what I'm doing and then show you what I did. I'm going to take my scissors and line them up with the edge of the bottom of the baking dish, and I'm just going to make a slit a little bit past where the dish is on both sides, so that when I turn this around, I've got a flappity flap. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. It's better for these to be slightly too deep rather than not deep enough. And then when I pick this up and put this in, it should, again, I have too much parchment paper, so it's getting a little bit more finicky than it should be. This kind of folds down and forms a better corner than it would if I just stuffed it in the corners. So there's that, and there's this. Is it perfect? No. Would it be better if I took a little bit more time? Yes. Am I going to? No. Good enough for me. Okay, so we've got our parchment paper ready to go. Okay, now for the good part. Chocolate chips. I'll show you the front of the chocolate chips. Can you go wrong with chocolate? You can go wrong with chocolate, let's be real. But we're not going wrong today. Put these in. Just a nice little healthy sprinkling chocolate chips. And then I am just going to start mixing everything together. So there are a couple things I really like about these granola bars. The first is that the ingredients are all quite simple. The second is that I tend to get a little bit bored of the same old flavor combinations. Like, you go to the store and they have what they have and that's it. And what if I don't want chocolate almonds for the third day in a row? I can come home and I can make my own. I can come home and make my own. Did I say I can come home and make my home? I can come home and make my own. And it can be whatever flavor I want it to be. It's up to you what you want to make. Okay, I'm going to take this and dump it into my parchment lined tin. And because of what I'm going to show you next, it really doesn't matter where it goes because I'm not really going to spread it all out. Bombs away! Because I don't want it to be spread out across the whole bottom of it. We're just going to be doing basically half of it. Get all the good news. Okay, that's good enough for now. I'll scrape it out better in a little bit. I'm just going to roughly even this out, and I'm going to trade places so I can show you what I'm doing here a little bit more easily. So we have our mixture here. If you have a dish that you are using the whole area of, you would want to spread this out a little bit more evenly before you compress it. I am not using the whole area here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my parchment paper and I'm going to fold it over just like that. I need to kind of pull this out of the way a little bit so it's going to go into the granola bar. And then I'm just going to use my hands to kind of smash it in place like that. And then I can see about how thick my granola bar is going to be. And I can unfold it as far as I want to unfold it until my granola bar is at the thickness I want it. So having a dish that's bigger than what you need makes it really easy to make the bars the thickness you want them to be. When it's at that point, you want to make sure to kind of hold this down on both sides so it can't keep melting this direction. But the goal now is to compress this as much as possible. The better you compress it, the better it's going to stay together. So take the time to really press it down. You can kind of use your fingers to kind of tap the edges down, or else you end up with little convex edges, which aren't really a whole lot of fun. Concave edges. Right. Use the palm of my hand and use my fists to make sure the edges are all nice. It does get a little noisy. If you don't like using your hand, you can definitely get a flat-bottomed little something, and that also does a really good job of pressing down. At one point I was using like a drinking glass to do this, and the edge of the lip was kind of sharp and it did not feel good. So make sure it has kind of a thicker lip to it. Okay, that is almost where I want it. When it's not quite where I want it, I'm going to add my toppings because I want the top to look a little bit more intentional than this. So I'm going to add just a few more chocolate chips. Because again, you can't go wrong. Sprinkle those across the top. This is for looks more than for flavors. And then some walnut pieces, I guess, so people know there's walnut in it. Something I really like about walnuts is they're really easy to just kind of like just break and sprinkle. This is also a good time to look. Like I can see right here, I didn't do a very good job of like getting this down. So now I have a mental note to make sure to get that edge so it looks nice and even. So we have all of our toppings there. I'm gonna fold this back over. Make sure to hit that edge. Okay, I am going to take this. It's been all compressed and compacted down. I'm going to kind of fold in the edges a little bit. And then this is going in the fridge for at least 2 hours, but preferably overnight. Now, when I hear something has to go in the fridge for that long, my question is always, but why? What's happening? Like, can't I just eat it now? You could eat it now, it's gonna fall apart. What putting it in the fridge does is it helps, how am I gonna explain this? So if I have a wet rag or a wet paper towel and I put a dry rag or a dry paper towel on top of it, the top rag does not stay dry. The top rag or paper towel also gets wet because water likes to move and spread. So that's essentially what's happening in these when they're setting overnight, is the moisture content is becoming more even. Right now there's kind of pockets of moisture in the chia seeds, but as it sets overnight, that moisture is spreading out, and as it spreads out and becomes more equalized, it holds your granola bar together. That's kind of what holds everything together, in addition to the sticky of the, do we use honey or maple syrup today? We use maple syrup today. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge overnight and I will see you tomorrow. Welcome back! We're back! I told you we were coming back tomorrow, but if you can see by my mess, I just came back 30 seconds later. I made this yesterday. It's not funny to you because a video is a video, but it's funny to me. Let me be funny, and let me have funny. Let me enjoy funny. I don't know. Anyway, I did not make exactly the same one last night. Last night, I made one that has diced apricots in it. We sell apricots that are pre-diced, which makes something like this super easy to do. So I used diced apricots, and I did walnuts again. I really like walnuts. They're one of my favorite nuts, so that's what I used. And I put a lot of hemp in this one. So I can already tell it's not staying together uber duper well, but this is kind of one of those things that one time it works great and the next time it's not as flawless, and you kind of just gotta roll with the punches because it's still delicious. So I'm gonna cut this up. For my sizing, I like to cut this in half, and then I cut this in half. I should have cut that in thirds. We're gonna cut this one in thirds. Man, these really are not staying together. I promise the ones I made the other day were staying together like amazingly well. And I'm gonna cut this in half this way. The initial batches I was making, I was putting some cinnamon in all of them, and that was really good. Vanilla would be really good in all of them. I think that if you made, like, if you like peanuts, please make this one. Peanuts, you could use peanut butter in the binder, some curry powder or something, and some coconut, and you've got a peanut curried coconut bar. That would be really good with cashews. I should make that with cashews. I think that'd be amazing. You could also do, like I did the pizza kind of one with sun-dried tomatoes and with yeast flakes. Am I scaring you with my knife? I'm gonna set that down. Of course, there's all the sweet options with all the different dried fruit and all the different nuts. And if you're trying to add more of a nut or a seed into your diet because this is a health property you really want to take advantage of, here it is. All right, do we use a plate for this or do we just pick it up and eat it? If we're gonna pick it up and eat it, I just need to make it a little bit smaller. You can see it is like it's not completely falling apart. There's pieces coming off of it, but isn't that kind of the fun of a granola bar, is it kind of makes a little bit of a mess? I think that that's fun. But it's good. Oh, you know what happened on this one? I added too much water to this one. That's what happened. So you'll learn as you do it what makes them better and what makes them worse. And my opinions are going to be different than your opinions. So I could tell you exactly the recipe that I love and adore. And you can come along and not like it. And that's your prerogative. But this was really good. So there you have it. Delicious no-bake granola bars in any flavor combination you can come up with. Please let me know what your favorite flavor combinations are. Let me know if you try this and what you try it with. I would love to see what you're doing. Thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. And thank you for letting me be part of your journey of making healthy simple. I'll see you next time.